Welcome to Life on Purpose. This is where we talk about building more exciting lives, living intentionally, writing the chapters in the story of our life on purpose. That's what we're doing. And I had a question last week that I promised I'd address this week, and this week I'm gonna tell you how to come up with ideas for the next chapter in your life. I don't know why, but that's a sticking point for a lot of people. Maybe I do know why. We've worked so long in this first half of our life, staying focused, staying on task, being a good husband, a good father, a good employee. And to do that, we say no to a lot of things, especially personal things, things that I might want to be. I don't have time for that. I don't have money for that. No, no, no. And that becomes a habit. It actually becomes a default response. And it's not healthy in the long term. It helps us achieve the goal during that first stage, but now that we're grown older, now that we have the opportunity to write new chapters in our life, we need to be more creative. We need to cut our imagination loose. We need to be the things that we've secretly always wanted to be, always wanted to try being. Now's the time. And that's how you write the next exciting chapter in your life story. Here's some ideas, okay? Everybody identifies with someone, right? The obvious example is I'm from Texas. I have a lot of friends that identify with Gus McCrae from Lonesome Dove. If you haven't seen the miniseries, you need to see it because this is one of the great all-time Western characters. And that's what happens when you watch this movie. You want to be part of it. You want to be on that cattle drive. Okay. If you're looking at the next chapter of your life and you like that kind of story, you've always liked Gus McCrae, then maybe you should try that. What do you mean? I mean, try that, Maybe you should go on a cattle drive. Maybe you should be a cowboy. Put that down on your list. Get your paper there. Let's put that down. Cowboy. I want to be a cowboy. For how long? A week? You could go on a cattle drive. I'm sure there's some place in America where you can have a vacation on a cattle drive. For sure. For sure. Or maybe you want to be a cowboy for a whole summer. Actually be a cowboy. See what it'd be like to live that way. You can put that time aside. You can take vacations. You can organize it. Stop saying no. Just see, you're doing it again. You're starting to box yourself in. Give your imagination some room to play. You wanted to be a cowboy for a week or for a month. Maybe you want to be a cowboy your whole life. Well, not your whole life. But for the next life, for the next chapter. Let's the next chapter in my life be a cowboy. Wow. That's one idea. You can work on that idea for a while. You can put it down over here and start thinking of other ideas. What else do you identify with? Maybe it's martial arts. Maybe it's poker. Maybe it's boating. I have no idea what appeals to you. I have no idea what colors will look best on the tapestry of your life. I have no idea. You do. And you need to remove the restraints. Allow your imagination to play with this. Be patient with it. It takes time. You're not going to be very good at this at first. You're going to say no. You're going to think it's impractical or unreasonable. But if you keep practicing, sooner or later, you'll get loose. You'll start thinking of cool things to do. And it helps if you understand that it's not the one cool thing. You don't have to decide if you want to be a cowboy your whole life. The answer is probably no. But you're free to be a cowboy for a while and be something else in the next chapter. These are absolute truths that we tend to forget. Right? And that's the value of this conversation today. Go away from this understanding that you get to pick as many roles as you want to play, especially now. You've paid your dues. Time to live the rest of your life with meaning. Time to live it intentionally. What else would you like to be? Use your imagination. Write it down on a piece of paper and then start fleshing it out. And the validity of the adventure will reveal itself. If you're starting to write it down, starting to detail it out, and you lose interest, well, then that wasn't really the adventure for you after all. Right? But if you find yourself getting interested, you start Googling, cattle drives in the summer, or can I hire on at a ranch for a summer? Just, maybe I don't make any money, but I learned to be a cowboy. I get to practice being a cowboy. Let me tell you the coolest thing about learning to live this way is that you walk through doors not knowing what's in that new hallway. And often what's in that new hallway are the most wonderful surprises of your life. I know that sounds a bit hyperbolic, but it's true. I'll give you a perfect example. I lived my life like everybody else lives as a husband, a father, a working man, and when my time came to indulge my curiosity, to live out one of my fantasies, I decided to become a mountain man. I did not know that would mean I'd learn to be a packer. That came later, a couple of years later. And then when I was learning to be a packer, I found out that I could actually live back there alone, indulge the extreme fantasy of being Jeremiah Johnson. I didn't know that in the beginning. I didn't plan for that when I first made the decision to write this next chapter. I didn't know those other chapters were there. You see, those were great surprises to me, wonderful new chapters that I did not plan. And towards the end of that, I found a mate in Poland and moved to Lower Silesia, where the language is user hostile, and my whole life is an adventure. Do you think I planned this? Do you think I had any idea that this was coming? No, of course not. And I would never have found it had I not gone through the door to becoming a mountain man. But that doesn't make any sense at all. You can't plan those kind of things to happen, and that's what makes life so exciting for me. Do you see that? I'm excited with my life because I enjoy the journey. It sounds cliche, but that's what it is. I like coming up with ideas for the next chapter of my life, knowing that I'm going to get surprised, knowing that when I engage in living that new chapter, the universe is going to throw me some curveballs. Some of them could be bad. Some of them can be bad. It doesn't always work out great. Doesn't make it a bad chapter. Maybe the ending was just kind of rough. And we go off and we write the next chapter in our life. I did this. Towards the end of that chapter, I got surprised with a door that led me to the most incredible chapter in my life. Can you imagine? Well, practice. Practice, man. Practice imagining. Don't underestimate the value of having a log or a journal or just a piece of paper on the side of the desk like I got over there where you can write these ideas, because that's the first step in bringing them to life. You write that down. And I'm not joking. I'm not joking. This is exactly what happened to me. When I was a businessman, I'd entertained the idea of retirement as a mountain man. And it seemed totally impractical, but I wrote it down. What's it take? I didn't want to be a mountain man. I started out by wanting to retrace the route of Lewis and Clark through the Rockies. Well, that's crazy. Well, kind of, but I'm thinking about it, you know. I find that I'm reading Lewis and Clark and all these books. I'm fascinated with the subject. Let me chase it for a little while. Let me indulge my curiosity. Let you indulge yours. Write that down. I'm going to retrace Lewis and Clark. What, all 2,000 miles? No, most of it's roads and walkways now, but through the mountains. Retrace Lewis and Clark through the mountains. How long would that take? Well, I don't know. How far is it? I'll do some research. And all the time I'm studying, my life is better. Yeah, that boring day, that Tuesday, that Wednesday, whatever day it was before I started exercising my imagination, wasn't as good as it is right now. I'm Googling, I'm learning, I'm starting to flesh out this idea. It's in my journal now. We're going to see what kind of life it takes on. Put that down to the side. I ended up executing that fantasy, man. I walked across the mountains, retracing the route of Lewis and Clark. I did it in the winter, and it was one of the great chapters in my life. It's part of the tapestry. It's a memory that I will embrace when I'm old and done. I promise. Glad I did it. But I did not know that indulging that fantasy was going to open the door to becoming a packer. I didn't even know what a packer was. Oh, look at that. And then the next step I took, I started living the life of the old Lewis and Clark mountain men, living alone in the winter. I could never have planned all those cool things had I not said yes to myself. I had to design the way that I integrated that fantasy into my existing life. That was part of the plan, you see, but you can do that. You can do that, and it's actually fun. So start thinking about the people and the things, the activities, or the periods of time that intuitively interest you, that instinctively light you up, and write them down. Start keeping them. So today I recommend that you start a glimmer log. That's what I call it. You can call it whatever you want to. The point is that you give your imagination some attention. Write it down. That's the attention. You don't have to pay for anything. Just invest a little of your time to take your imagination seriously. The thoughts that are worth keeping should be kept, and write them down today. And you're going to start seeing a pattern develop. That's the exciting part up front. Follow the pattern. Next week, I'll show you how to assemble that data into a plan that you can use to start writing the next chapter right now. How's that? That's all the time I'll use of yours today. Thanks for coming along. I hope you enjoyed it. Hit that like button if you did, and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Next week, we're going to talk about making a plan out of these ideas, so you don't want to miss that. And if you've got something cool to share it in the comments. Tell me what you're thinking about, or tell me what you got out of these, or tell me what you'd like to talk about next. I'm here for you, and I'll be back next week. Thanks for your time. Good to see you again.